Have you ever had a kind of an experience where you're watching two people, talk about something and you have no idea what they're talking about? I mean, maybe they're like, experts or, whatever. And
all
your
the time.
eyes, it's just like, what are you talking? And your eyes kind of glaze over. Or kind of worse yet, you're listening to a teacher and the teacher's trying to explain something to you, but you're just not there. You can't grasp what they're talking about. It's too much or whatever.
Or you're a new homeschool mom and people are talking about homeschooling type things and using all these weird homeschool words. And you're like, what in the world are they talking about? What do you see as some of the benefits of memorization?
Sure. So memorization provides, we kind of mentioned it on Monday, that it provides a lot of context. And if I can, I'm going to unpack that just kind of a little bit because I think that kind of provides a lot of the benefits. There's a lot more than just this, but one of the things that it does provide so well is context. And we talked about it for conversations, but it also has this kind of ability. Have you ever had a kind of an experience where you're watching two people, talk about something and you have no idea what they're talking about? I mean, maybe they're like, experts or, whatever. And
all
your
the time.
eyes, it's just like, what are you talking? And your eyes kind of glaze over. Or kind of worse yet, you're listening to a teacher and the teacher's trying to explain something to you, but you're just not there. You can't grasp what they're talking about. It's too much or whatever.
Or you're a new homeschool mom and people are talking about homeschooling type things and using all these weird homeschool words. And you're like, what in the world are they talking about?
And no one's trying to be, non-understandable, right? Did I just make
Is that a word?
I don't know. I sometimes I do that. You kind of do
now.
These. Yeah, exactly. Non-understandable. But anyway, but if you're listening to those people and your eyes are glazing over, I would submit to you that part of the reason why that is, it may be just that you've used your brain too much and all that kind of stuff. But one of the reasons why that might be is because you don't have those words they're talking about at your ready recall, right? You don't have a memorized context that you can actually engage with. There's something called schema, which is this is kind of edu speak, right? But it's this idea of the stuff that you know about something. Okay, you have a schema about your podcast. Okay, you have a schema about your family. You have a schema about homeschooling. And anytime that you deal with something pertaining to whatever that is, whatever your schema is on say your husband or something, if you guys are having a great time, you're making a decision, you're bringing that information about your husband through your schema of your husband to have a solution, right? To have a conclusion to whatever you're thinking about. Right? If it's homeschool, let's say you've had a very, you had a great homeschooling experience and something kind of tough happens. Well, you kind of draw that through your schema, your experience, what you know about homeschooling. And you might be like, well, it's not that big a deal. Right. But if you had a very negative homeschooling experience, right. And something negative happens, you're going to try to draw that through that schema again. And you might have a very different conclusion, a very different end point because of your schema. Now I talked about that's like experiential schema, but there's also like informational schema. So if you have a person who's an expert and you ask them a question about, what they're actually an expert on, they may have a very different solution or answer than a layman who just kind of maybe knows something a little bit about that thing, right? Because they're drawing it through schema. And so if you're able to increase your schema, you're suddenly able to engage in conversation about something to a greater degree. Even if you're not actually verbally conversing, you're able to engage with that person. So for example, if someone is talking about, something that's really highfalutin. My dad, was an anthropologist in college. He actually became a pastor later on. So that was kind of fun.
That's interesting.
Yeah. But he was having a conversation one time. I actually saw him actually engage with anthropological, know-how. There's some scientist guy he met one time and I was privy to their conversation. I have no idea what they were talking about. Now I was fascinated because I'm a nerd, but at the same time, on some level, I'm I don't remember anything they're talking about. And my eyes could have started just kind of glazing over unless I knew what they were talking about, right? If I knew what those words were, if my schema included that information, I would not have gotten bored, right? Now, again, nerd, I didn't get bored, but lots of people, if you're listening to something that's just drawing on, you're going, oh my gosh, this is so painful.
Yeah.
You don't have a schema for that.
Like if I were to listen to someone talk about video games, for instance.
I'm assuming that's a thing for you.
Die of boredom.
Yeah. I would not. But that's exactly right. And so, but if you understand something, I learned when I was in doing my student teaching, I learned a lot about football. And suddenly I loved football. And I didn't used to like it at all because I didn't understand it.
Right.
But suddenly my eyes weren't glazing over anymore. I was like, oh, I understand what they're doing and I get it, and it was exciting to me at that point.
Yeah.
Like I still like football. I don't follow any of the teams. I don't have time, but I do like football now.
Yeah.
Whereas I didn't before. And so, one thing that's amazing about memorization is it actually provides, it can bust boredom. It can actually make it so you're no longer fighting that problem of not having the schema that you need to engage in the conversation.
Right.
Even just mentally.
Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.